What if you never rushed again? What if your purpose wasn't to move fast, but to grow deep? What if you were a tree? I began underground, buried, alone, forgotten, even by the ones who dropped me. There were no cheers, no witnesses, no signposts that said, "A great tree is starting here." Just darkness and silence. You might know that place, the beginning that doesn't feel like a beginning, the place where you're not yet anything impressive, anything noticed, anything known. You're just trying, quietly. And like me, you may wonder, will anything come from this? Am I stuck or just growing roots? But here's the truth only seeds understand. Everything beautiful begins beneath the surface. The dirt was cold, damp, heavy, but it wasn't dead. It held memory, minerals, the softened bones of those who came before me. Worms wove by like veins through the earth's skin. The soil breathed. I didn't know where I was, only that I was surrounded, not trapped, held. And slowly I realized I was not waiting for the world. The world was waiting for me. There were days I thought I was done for before I'd even begun. I could feel movement far above me, birds, rain, life, but none of it touched me. And so I questioned everything. What if I was never meant to grow? What if this is just where I stay? What if nothing ever breaks through? But in that darkness, in that sacred stillness, something was happening I couldn't see yet. I was splitting. Not breaking, not dying. Splitting open. The shell that had once protected me had now become my prison, and nature knew it was time for me to stop hiding. Painful? Yes. Necessary? Always. The world loves loud progress, headlines, announcements, grand debuts. But real growth, the kind that lasts, it's quiet, it's invisible, it's lonely. I grew before I grew, downward, not upward, roots, not leaves. I didn't stretch for the sun first. I searched for something deeper, something stable, something that would hold me when the wind came, and it always comes. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like nothing is happening, no matter how hard you're trying? Like the world is moving without you, like everyone else is blooming and you're just buried? I understand, but listen to me carefully. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not invisible. You're just a seed, and seeds do their best work in the dark. Not once did I bloom early. Not once did I get to skip the silence. Nature doesn't rush, but nature also never fails. Even when nothing seems to be happening, something always is. A seed is building its entire future underground. Root direction, strength strategy, water sense, resilience recipe. You don't see the work, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. The hardest part? Believing in the sun before I ever saw it. That's faith. That's bravery. That's what most people never get taught. I couldn't see light, but I felt it in my design. My entire existence whispered, "There's more. There's something up there. Keep going." And so I did. Every cell of me reached upward, even though I didn't know if upward would welcome me. I didn't wait to be certain. I didn't ask for permission. I simply trusted that growing was the right thing to do. The soil didn't get easier. In fact, it got denser, thicker, wetter. I had to push, split stone, squeeze between resistance. I had no hands, no eyes, only instinct. But discomfort wasn't the enemy. It was the passage, the initiation. Growth doesn't feel like winning. It feels like tension, confusion, and moving forward anyway. If I had reached upward too soon, I would have fallen the first time the wind arrived. If I had stretched out into sunlight before anchoring down, I would have snapped in my first storm. But my roots knew, go deeper first. Don't rush beauty. Build foundation. And so I grew, downward, patiently, silently, with discipline and doubt and mud in my soul. How long did it take? I don't know. Because real growth doesn't check clocks. It follows conditions. It respects timing. There is no too late in the forest. There is no you should be taller by now. The only question that matters is, are you rooted enough to rise? Every tree you see, every strong, ancient, breathtaking tower of bark and leaf was once a buried question, a silent maybe, a trembling hope, a cold little seed in a world that didn't notice it existed. But it kept going, kept trusting, kept becoming. And one day, it broke the surface, and it saw the sun for the first time, but not before earning it. Maybe that's you, not where you want to be, not seen, not ready, not clear. But what if this isn't failure? What if it's foundation? What if the slow days, the buried seasons, the invisible years are exactly what you need? What if the dark isn't your end, but your beginning? So I ask again, what if you were a tree? Would you be rushing? Would you be comparing? Would you be ashamed of how long it's taking? Or would you trust the dark, grow deep before you rise, and believe in the sun even before you see it? Because I promise you this, the seed that dares to believe without seeing will one day grow tall enough to touch the sky. Before I ever touched the sky, I had to go the opposite way, down, into the soil, into the unseen, into the dark. People only notice what grows above. They marvel at the height, the beauty, the bloom. But no one stops to ask, how deep did it have to go to stand this tall? They don't see the part of me that holds it all together, the roots. And maybe that's the same with you. When you dream of reaching the top, of rising into the light, of becoming more, do you think about what it takes beneath the surface? Because nothing stands tall unless something underneath is holding it. No skyscraper, no story, no soul. And so while the world watched nothing happen, I built everything that mattered, in silence. My roots didn't grow because it was easy. They grew because they had to. There was pressure from all sides, rock, clay, cold, resistance. And yet I kept pushing. I didn't push because I was certain. I pushed because I was called, and something inside whispered, before you stretch, you must anchor. Before you bloom, you must belong. To the earth, to your path, to yourself. There is a sacred truth in that, a truth most forget in the rush to be seen. The deeper you go, the higher you can rise. But going deep means letting go of light for a while. It means choosing depth over display. It means choosing to become something real before you become something visible. There were no guarantees I would reach the sky. There was only the knowing, the kind of knowing that lives beyond logic, a knowing that says, this isn't the end, this isn't all there is. Keep going. And so I did, slowly, without applause, without signs, without sunlight. Only direction, only faith, only a pull from somewhere I couldn't name. Each inch I grew beneath the earth was an act of becoming. Each root that found water, each root that hit stone and split around it, each twist and turn, they were all lessons. Lessons in strength, in patience, in adaptation. No root path is straight. No journey downward is clean, but that's what makes it worthy. There is no glory in roots, no beauty in dirt. No one writes poems about the struggle beneath the soil. But I will, because that is where the story truly begins. That is where I earned the right to rise. You see, to survive what's above, I had to prepare below. The wind doesn't ask how tall you want to be, it only tests how deep your foundation is. And when the storm comes, it doesn't care about your color or your bloom or how many birds once sang in your branches. The storm asks only one question: can you hold? My roots gave me the answer. Yes, I can hold. I can bend. I can stay. It's strange how much life tries to pull us upward. Social pressure, expectations, the constant demand to perform, to prove, to produce. But the soul doesn't care about appearances. The soul wants depth. The soul wants meaning. And depth requires time. I took that time. I grew down while others sprinted upward. I disappeared while others announced themselves. And yet, when the storms came, when the winds howled, when the soil shook, I stood, quietly, steadily, because I had earned my place here. The world sees a tree and thinks of shade, or wood, or fruit. But I see more. I see the invisible strength it took to hold all that beauty. I see the roots as the real story, not the leaves. And I wonder, have you honored your roots? Have you allowed yourself to grow deep before demanding you bloom? Have you been willing to face the dark, the doubt, the detours, not as failures, but as the shaping force of your foundation? Because I promise you, your power lives down there. Not in the place you're trying to get to, but in the place you already are. The heartbreaks, the quiet work, the nights no one saw, the fears you kept private, the strength you built when no one was clapping. Those are your roots. And the longer you've been underground, the deeper you've gone, the more likely it is that your rise will last. It's hard to be patient, I know. There were days I wanted to grow faster, to break through sooner, to taste the sky and prove I belonged. But something deeper in me knew, don't rush. You're building the part that will matter when everything else is stripped away. And it's true. When the storms came, my leaves blew away. My bark cracked. I lost things. I lost people. I lost pieces of myself I thought I needed. But my roots? They stayed. They held me. And because they held, I did not fall. You might not see it yet. You might be in a season where everything feels hidden, where nothing is blooming, where no one is cheering. But that doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're becoming. It means you're not rising yet because you're still building what will hold you when you do. And that's sacred. We don't celebrate slow growth enough. We don't celebrate invisible strength. But maybe we should. Maybe the ones who take the longest to bloom are the ones who'll last the longest once they do. Maybe the reason your story is unfolding slowly is because it was never meant to be small. And maybe you've been asking the wrong question. Instead of wondering when your time will come, ask, am I deep enough to handle what I've asked for? Ask, can I stay standing even if the world above me turns chaotic? Ask, what am I anchoring to when nothing goes as planned? Because when you rise, and you will rise, the world will only see your height. But you'll know the truth. You'll know the work it took to build something that wouldn't fall apart the moment it was tested. You'll know how many days you spent in silence, how many times you chose purpose over performance, how often you said, "Not yet, I'm still becoming." And that will matter more than any recognition, more than any spotlight, more than any applause. Because you won't just have grown tall, you'll have grown true. True to the process, true to the pace, true to the roots that fed you before anyone knew your name. There is something holy about the hidden season, something noble about being unseen and still showing up. And one day, when you are full, when your branches stretch wide, when you offer shade and shelter to others, they'll sit beneath you and wonder how you became so strong. They won't know the story under their feet, but you will. And maybe you won't tell them everything. Maybe you'll just smile. Because you'll understand that what they admire now was built in the dark. And that the part of you no one saw, no one cheered for, no one understood, was the part that made everything else possible. That is what roots do. That is what strength really is. And that is what you are becoming right now. Even if it doesn't look like it yet. Even if no one else can see it. Even if you still feel buried. Keep growing. Keep anchoring. Keep trusting. You're not behind. You're preparing. And when it's time to rise, you won't just reach the sky. You'll belong there. I don't chase. I never have. I don't rush. I don't run. I don't measure myself by how fast I can grow or how loud I can be. The sky doesn't demand it, and the earth wouldn't allow it. Instead, I wait. I listen. I feel. I learn. I live in the stillness, and I let time do its quiet work. You call it standing still. I call it becoming. To most, stillness looks like nothing is happening. But those who live close to the earth, they know. Stillness is not the absence of movement, it's the presence of depth. It's choosing to remain rooted in a world that rewards reaction. It's holding your ground while everything around you begs for your attention, your energy, your hurry. But I've learned, when you move with intention, you don't need to move often. I have no need to rush toward sunlight. It finds me when the time is right. I do not chase the wind. I let it pass through me. I do not beg the rain to fall. I wait, open. I trust the season I'm in, even when I don't understand it. Because nature doesn't move on command. It moves when conditions are right. And that's something your world has forgotten. You want growth overnight, transformation on schedule. You want certainty and speed and results. But I will tell you what I've learned from centuries of standing here. Nothing real ever comes quickly, and nothing meaningful ever grows without rhythm. Everything in nature moves with a beat, not a metronome, but a pulse, a breath. And when you live in tune with that, you begin to understand. Slowness isn't laziness, it's alignment. I do not bloom in winter. I do not grow in drought. I do not stretch my limbs just to prove I can. I conserve, I rest, I wait. And when it's time, I rise, quietly, powerfully, without apology. Stillness is strength because stillness listens. Stillness observes. Stillness knows that not every call is meant to be answered. Not every fight is yours to fight. Not every wave is yours to ride. When the storm comes, I do not panic. I bend. I do not scream back at the wind. I let it move past me. I do not fear the thunder. I let it echo while I hold my ground. And when it's over, I'm still here. Maybe I've lost a few leaves, but never my roots, never my presence, never my place. Stillness lets you survive the chaos. In my stillness, I've witnessed lifetimes. Lovers meeting beneath my shade, children climbing my limbs, animals nesting in my arms, generations born, grown, gone, all while I stood still and fully aware. There's a kind of wisdom that only comes when you stop trying to be everywhere, when you stop trying to do everything, when you choose to be here, just here. You think stillness is boring, but only because you've forgotten how much beauty is in the details. A single dewdrop on my leaf holds the morning sun. A breeze through my branches tells me which season is coming next. A single footstep near my roots lets me know someone is approaching with a story of their own. Stillness has taught me to feel deeply, to sense the rhythm of the world, to understand that the most powerful things are often the most quiet: gravity, time, growth, love. None of them shout, but all of them shape the world. And maybe that's what you've forgotten too. You've been told to move faster, do more, be everywhere. But look at what it's costing you: your peace, your clarity, your breath. You're moving so fast, you can't even hear your own soul speak anymore. I wonder, what would happen if you slowed down? What would happen if you stopped sprinting toward what you think life should look like, and simply stood still long enough to feel what life already is? What if you sat under the stars and asked no questions? What if you let silence teach you what noise never could? Stillness is not inactivity, it is presence. And presence is the doorway to peace. You're not peaceful when nothing is happening. You're peaceful when you're okay no matter what is happening. That's what I've learned. Because some days the sun burns. Some nights the cold bites. Some seasons nothing grows. But I remain, not because I resist the world, but because I surrender to it. Not surrender as in give up. Surrender as in accept what is. Trust what's coming. Let go of what's gone. Stillness gave me that. Stillness taught me that I don't have to prove my worth. I don't have to justify my existence. I don't have to fight for space, because I am space. I take up room in the most natural way, and I belong. So do you. Stillness can be uncomfortable at first. It will surface everything you've been running from: the fears, the questions, the loneliness, the grief. But those are not enemies. Those are roots, and they must be felt before they can be healed. Let them rise. Let the stillness bring them up. Let yourself feel, not to get rid of it, but to understand it, to grow through it. Because the longer you sit with yourself, the more you realize you're not broken. You're just buried under years of noise. And the more still you become, the more you begin to hear the truth again. You are already becoming. You are already enough. You don't have to chase healing. You only have to stop running from yourself. The most profound changes I've experienced didn't come from lightning bolts or loud events. They came quietly, subtly, in the smallest movements. One more root, one more leaf, one more breath, until suddenly I was not who I used to be. And yet I never forced it. I just allowed it. Stillness is what allows change to happen on the soul level. Because when you stop trying to control every moment, you start allowing the moment to shape you. And that's where the real growth is. Not in doing more, but in being more rooted, more aware, more whole. Stillness is strength because it doesn't need validation. It isn't loud. It doesn't beg to be seen. It knows what it is. And that kind of knowing, that kind of grounded certainty, it's unshakable. When the world is spinning, the still ones are the ones others turn to, the ones who can hold space, the ones who can breathe slowly, the ones who can speak gently, the ones who have seen many storms and still whisper, "You're going to be okay." You can become that person, but only if you stop long enough to remember who you are. I have stood here for years, and I've learned more in silence than I ever could in motion. I've learned that joy doesn't live in the next thing. It lives in the now. That peace is not a destination, but a decision. And that purpose is not something you find by racing, but by returning. Returning to your breath, returning to your body, returning to your inner knowing. So I will not move until it is time. I will not speak unless there is something that must be said. I will not rush the process, and I hope you won't either. The truth is, you are already growing, even when it doesn't feel like it. You are already healing, even when it still hurts. You are already becoming, even when no one sees it. All you need to do is trust the stillness. Stand where you are. Feel what is here. And let the wisdom of the pause do its work. Because stillness is not weakness. Stillness is the strength. They don't tell you what comes after the growing. They speak of beauty, of standing tall, of being admired. But they don't prepare you for what comes when the sky turns gray, when the wind changes its voice, when the rain stops dancing and starts breaking, when light disappears and all you can do is hold. The first storm always surprises you. No one expects the sky to turn against them. One moment it's calm, the next everything is shaking. I remembered the first time the wind screamed. It wasn't a whisper. It wasn't a warning. It was wild. It was war. It clawed at my branches and snapped my young leaves. I had nothing to fight it with, only my roots, only my stillness, only what I had built before the sky went dark. And that was enough. Barely. But it was enough. You learn a lot when the storm arrives. You learn what was strong and what was show. You learn which parts of you were decoration and which were foundation. You learn that not all of you will make it. Some branches break, some limbs are lost, but your core, your essence must hold. And so I held. I bent. I cracked. I shook, but I did not fall. Because deep beneath the soil, I had prepared for this. That's the thing no one talks about. Storms are inevitable. If you plan to live a long life, you must learn how to survive loss. You must understand that resilience isn't built in peace. It's revealed in pressure. I didn't become strong by standing tall. I became strong by standing tall again and again, no matter what tried to pull me down. I have known many kinds of storms, not just the ones with thunder and rain. I've known the drought, the storm of absence, the ache of waiting for water that never came, the kind of pain that doesn't scream, it starves, slowly, quietly, a dryness that cracks you from the inside. No drama, just dust. And I survived that too. Because some storms take things away. Others refuse to give you what you need. But either way, they ask the same question. Will you give up or go deeper? I always chose deeper. When the rains wouldn't fall, I sent my roots lower. I searched. I listened to the ground. I learned where the hidden water lived. I didn't wait to be saved. I adapted. And I found that even in scarcity, something inside me still knew how to survive. You do too. You have that same instinct, that same sacred fire, that same quiet refusal to be erased. Even when you feel like breaking, you bend. And that bending is not weakness, it is wisdom. Do not be ashamed of how the storms have shaped you. I'm not. My bark carries scars, marks from lightning, scrapes from wild animals, cracks from winters that came too early and left too late. But I do not hide these. I do not wish them away. They are not ugly. They are proof. Proof that I was here, that I endured, that I did not vanish when it got hard, that I did not run from the cold or crumble under weight. They are my map, each scar a chapter, each wound a story, and those stories, they made me. Pain carves meaning into our lives, and survival teaches us who we really are, not the version of us we show when the sun is out, but the one who shows up when everything is falling apart. That's the real self, the version that holds steady in the storm, the version that says, I don't know what's next, but I'm still here. You don't need to know how long the storm will last. You just need to know who you are when it hits. The rain doesn't ask for permission. The wind doesn't check your schedule. They arrive when they want, and they test everything you've built. But if you've grown deep, you'll stand. You won't look perfect. You won't come through untouched. But you'll be alive. You'll be wiser, stronger, slower maybe, but more grounded. And the next time it comes, you'll know this is not the end. I used to fear the storms. I used to tremble when I saw the sky change. But over the years, something shifted. I stopped dreading them. I started honoring them. Because as much as they took, they also gave. They taught me how strong I truly am. They humbled me.
They reminded me that life is not about controlling the weather, but learning to move through it. They reminded me that safety doesn't come from avoidance, it comes from resilience. And now, when the clouds roll in, I don't panic. I prepare. I breathe. I dig in. Because the storm is not my enemy. It is my teacher. It shows me where I still need to grow, and it strips away what no longer serves me. I've lost branches I thought I needed, only to discover that they were holding me back from the light. I've watched entire limbs fall to the ground, and then seen new life grow in their place. Loss is not always destruction. Sometimes it is making space. Space for what's next. Space for new growth. Space for truth. The forest has taught me this. Everything belongs. The calm, the chaos, the bloom, the break. It is all part of becoming. You cannot love the spring if you do not respect the storm. You cannot rise if you do not learn how to remain. I don't know what kind of storm you're facing. Maybe it's loud, maybe it's silent. Maybe it came out of nowhere and now you're just trying to breathe. I understand. I've been there. Still am some days. But hear this. The fact that you're still here means something. It means your roots are working. It means your spirit is stronger than you think. It means the storm hasn't won, and it won't. Let it rage. Let it pour. Let it test you. And then let it pass. Because it always does. No storm stays forever. No night lasts without end. Even the wildest winds grow tired. Even the darkest clouds lose their weight. And when the light returns, as it always does, you will still be standing. Changed, yes, but wiser. Weathered. Worthy. There is something sacred in having survived what was meant to break you. Something holy in holding on when everything told you to let go. That kind of strength cannot be taught. It can only be lived. And once you've lived it, no one can take it from you. Not every season is meant for thriving. Some are meant for enduring. And there is no shame in survival. Survival is a kind of miracle. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is not give up, to keep reaching, keep breathing, keep standing even if it's shaky. That's resilience. That's power. That's growth. When people look at me, they often say, "You're so strong." But what they don't see is how many storms I've lived through. How many nights I've stood in the rain. How many times I wanted to fall, but didn't. And I want you to know you have that same strength. Not because you feel unbreakable, but because you've been broken and still stayed open. Open to love. Open to healing. Open to hope. The storm does not define you, but how you stand in it, that becomes your story. Let yours be one of quiet courage, of steady roots, of grace in the wind. Let your life say, "I may have been shaken, but I was never moved." And when the next storm comes, because it will, remember this. You have already survived so much. You have already proven your strength. This too will pass. And you will rise again. I've lived 1,000 lives in this same spot, not through movement, but through seasons. Over and over again, I have shed who I was, stood bare in the cold, waited without answers, and bloomed again, all without ever leaving.
You think transformation requires running, but I have changed completely by staying rooted. The secret? Understanding seasons. I have come to know them like family, each one with its own personality, its own rhythm, its own gift. Not always gentle, rarely predictable, but always necessary. You cannot fight the seasons. You cannot rush them. You cannot trade one for another just because it feels easier. You must live each one as it comes, fully, honestly, patiently. Spring is hope, the miracle of beginning again. 1,000 small whispers that say, "It's safe now. You can try. You can bloom. You're allowed to dream again." It never happens all at once. It starts with a small green bud, almost invisible. A silent declaration: life is returning. Growth is waking. Something inside me is ready to reach. But spring doesn't arrive because I'm ready. It arrives when the world is. I cannot force the warmth. I can only recognize when it returns. And when it does, I open. Not all at once. Carefully. Slowly. Each leaf a tiny act of trust. You see, blooming always carries risk. Every time I stretch a new limb, I know it could be broken. Every time I open a bud, I know it could be taken by wind or frost. But I still bloom. Because living closed is not really living. You don't get to experience the sky if you're too afraid to reach for it. So I open. I grow. I sing with birds. I dance with bees. I become something new, yet still rooted in what I've always been. But spring does not last. And that's the first lesson of seasons. Nothing does. So then comes summer. Not the gentle bloom of beginning, but the full heat of becoming. Summer is bright and wild and alive. Summer is when I feel my fullest, strong, seen, stretched wide toward the sun. But even in summer, I must work. Photosynthesis, nourishment, energy flowing through my leaves. There is joy here, yes, but also responsibility. I must bear fruit. I must feed those around me. I must carry the weight of my own fullness. And people love the tree in summer. They rest in my shade. They climb my branches. They marvel at the abundance, but they do not always notice the effort. How much energy it takes to remain steady. How much sun I need to turn into life. How many roots must support what they see. Summer teaches me the price of growth, the effort behind beauty, and that even abundance can be exhausting, that even when everything looks right on the outside, you can still feel tired underneath. And that's why I welcome autumn, the gentle undoing, the holy release. People see autumn as an ending. I don't. I see it as a returning, a remembering, a sacred invitation to let go. I begin to feel it in my leaves, the shift, a quiet tug, a calling back. The energy that once reached out to the sun now begins to retreat inward. And so I obey. I do not resist the fall. I do not hold on to what is meant to drop. I let go, leaf by leaf, memory by memory. One by one they drift to the ground, not as a loss, but as an offering. You call it decay. I call it renewal, because everything I release becomes nourishment. Every fallen leaf feeds the roots of what will come again. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is thrown away. Even the dying serves life. And that is the great wisdom of autumn. Letting go is not the end. It is the beginning of something deeper.
But you must be brave to let go. You must trust that even in emptiness, you are still becoming. That even in shedding, you are not less, only more revealed. And then winter comes, the hardest season for some. To the outside world I look dead. No leaves, no movement, no proof of life. But that's only what they can see. Inside, something profound is happening. Deep beneath the frozen soil, my roots are dreaming, planning, strengthening. Winter is the season of inner work, the season where nothing looks like it's changing, but everything is. I don't perform in winter. I don't try to prove anything. I simply rest. I allow the cold to teach me stillness. I let the silence speak. And it does. In winter, I hear the quiet truths that get drowned out in brighter months. That worth is not in blooming. That being is enough. That peace is not the absence of activity, but the presence of presence. I have learned to love winter, not for its beauty, but for its honesty. Winter doesn't pretend. It strips away all illusion. It forces me to ask, who am I when I have nothing to offer? Who am I when I'm not blooming, when I'm not bearing fruit, when I'm not admired? Am I still worthy? And the answer is always yes. Always. Because seasons don't define my value, they reveal it. You are not only worthy when you're blooming. You are worthy when you're resting, when you're rebuilding, when you're learning to let go. You are worthy in every season, even the ones you don't understand yet, especially those. The soul has seasons too, and you must stop punishing yourself for being in the wrong one. There is no wrong season. There is only wrong expectation. You expect yourself to bloom year-round, but even I, a tree, do not do that. Even I must rest. Even I must pause. You expect clarity when you are meant to be in a fog. You expect momentum when you are meant to be still. You expect answers when the questions themselves are still teaching you. But nature never rushes her seasons, and neither should you. You are not broken because you are bare. You are not lost because you are quiet. You are simply in a different part of the cycle. Trust that. You will bloom again, not because you force it, but because it is time. You will find joy again, not because you chase it, but because joy always returns to those who make space for it. And you will feel alive again, even if right now you only feel like soil. I have learned to love every part of this process. The rising, the resting, the opening, the releasing, the beauty, the barrenness. It's all sacred. And each season prepares me for the next. Without winter, I would never appreciate spring. Without shedding, I would never feel the lightness of new growth. Without the weight of summer, I would never know the gift of release. And without the quiet ache of autumn, I would never treasure the stillness of winter. You are not meant to be one thing forever. You are meant to evolve, again and again, to grow, to fall, to rise, to become, and then become again, just like me. So the next time you feel out of sync, pause, look around, feel the air. What season are you in? Not outside, but within. And what is that season asking of you? To rise? To rest? to release, to reach. Whatever it is, trust it. You don't need to control the season. You only need to cooperate with it. And in so doing, you will discover a kind of peace the world cannot give you and cannot take away. Because when you live in harmony with your own rhythm, you stop fearing the changes. You stop fearing the endings. You begin to see the wisdom in all of it.
They never say thank you. The people who sit beneath my shade, the ones who lean on my trunk when the world has worn them down, the ones who pick my fruit, carve their names into my bark, or build swings on my limbs, they never thank me. And yet, I do not stop giving. I don't give for applause. I don't give for recognition. I give because it is in my nature to give, because that's what I was born to do. Offer without expectation, stand without condition, and love without noise. Most of the things I do go unseen. The oxygen I release into the air, you can't see it, but you breathe it. The carbon I trap inside myself, you don't notice it, but it helps you survive. The soil I hold together with my roots, the rain I catch in my leaves, the life I shelter in my canopy. It happens quietly, constantly, without celebration. But I've never needed to be celebrated. I just needed to be. You see, that's the paradox of purpose. Sometimes the more important your role, the less visible you are. The more impact you make, the fewer people notice. And the more love you give, the more likely it is to go unspoken. But I've learned something that has changed me, something that you might need to hear too. You don't need to be seen to be significant. You don't need a witness to have worth. You don't need anyone to clap for your kindness in order for it to matter. Some of the greatest impacts are the quietest ones. The lives you changed just by listening, the smiles you gave without thinking, the burdens you lightened just by being there, the moments you stayed when it would have been easier to walk away. You may never know the full reach of your presence, but that doesn't make it any less powerful. I've watched children grow into adults under my branches. I've seen families fall apart and come back together in my shade. I've stood through weddings, funerals, first kisses, and last goodbyes. I've been part of so many lives, and most of them never even noticed me. But I noticed them. I held space for their stories. And maybe that's enough. Maybe our purpose isn't always to be remembered, but simply to hold space while we're here, to offer shelter, to offer peace, to offer presence. You may feel small. You may feel invisible. You may wonder if what you're doing matters, but I promise you it does. The way you show up, the way you care, the way you quietly make the world a little softer, a little safer, a little more beautiful. That matters. Even if no one says it, even if they forget you tomorrow, even if they never knew it was you who held them up. I don't need a monument built in my name. I am the monument, not because I asked to be, but because I stayed, because I stood when it was hard, because I chose to be present when it would have been easier to disappear. And that presence changed lives, not in loud ways, but in lasting ones. And isn't that what we're all really trying to do? Leave something behind that's bigger than ourselves? Plant something that grows long after we're gone? Love in ways that echo? I have never spoken a single word, and yet I have spoken to thousands. Through the rustle of my leaves, through the shelter I offer,
through the silent understanding of simply being there. Sometimes people lean on me not because they need answers, but because they need something that won't move, something that won't judge, something that won't fix or advise or interrupt. Just be there. You can be that for someone too. You don't have to have all the right words. You don't have to know the solution. You just have to stay. That is your silent impact, your steady presence in a world that moves too fast, judges too quickly, and forgets too easily. Let me tell you this: you do not need to do something extraordinary to be extraordinary. You do not need to be loud to be heard. You do not need to be famous to be meaningful. Sometimes the greatest thing you can do is stay rooted in who you are and keep offering your light, no matter who notices. Because someone will, even if they don't say it, even if they say it too late, even if they never find the words. They'll remember how it felt to be around you. They'll remember the peace, the safety, the warmth. They'll remember how your presence made their storm feel smaller, how your kindness made them feel seen, how your patience helped them breathe again. And they will carry that long after they've forgotten your name, long after they've moved on, long after they've stopped returning to your shade. They will carry the feeling. That's what silent impact is. Not a legacy carved in stone, but a life that planted seeds. Seeds of love, seeds of hope, seeds of belonging. I do not keep track of the people who pass through. I do not ask who deserves my fruit. I do not question whether they'll ever return. I simply give, because I can, and that is enough. That is freedom, to give without grasping, to love without needing, to stand without being seen. You are not small because you are quiet. You are not forgotten because you are humble. And you are not alone because they didn't stay. Sometimes the most powerful beings are the ones who remain while others leave, the ones who stand still while others run, the ones who anchor others, even when they feel unanchored themselves. If that's you, then thank you. Thank you for showing up when it's hard. Thank you for loving when it hurts. Thank you for being a place of peace in a world that so often forgets how to rest. Your presence is a gift, even if they never say it, even if they never notice it. You're changing lives just by being exactly who you are. And one day, someone will sit beneath you, metaphorically or literally, and feel a kind of safety they haven't felt in years, a kind of calm they forgot was possible. And in that moment, they won't know exactly why, but they'll breathe a little deeper. They'll smile a little softer. They'll feel a little lighter. And it will be because of you, because of your silent impact. So stay rooted, stay kind, stay true. The world needs more people like you, who understand that just being here, being present, being real, is already more than enough. And when you wonder if it's worth it, remember me. I've stood for generations, not for applause, not for legacy, but because someone, somewhere, might need me today. And someone, somewhere will need you tomorrow. Let them find you standing. Let them find you rooted. Let them find you whole. because your quiet love might just be the loudest thing they ever feel.
They won't remember my name. Not a single person walking by has ever asked what kind of tree I am, where I came from, or how long I've stood here. They don't know how many storms I've weathered, how many roots I've grown, or how many seasons I've lived through. They don't know my age, my story, my struggles. And still, I've made an impact. That's the strange, beautiful truth of existence. You can change the world without ever being noticed. You can shape lives without ever being seen. You can leave a legacy without leaving your name behind. You don't have to be remembered to have mattered. I've seen trees fall that were never named in any book, never captured in any photograph, never noticed until they were gone. But the soil remembered. The creatures who lived in them remembered. The seeds they dropped, those remembered too. Legacy is not what they write about you. Legacy is how the world feels in your absence. Does the space you leave behind hold echoes of peace, of kindness, of love? Did your presence allow others to grow? Did your shadow offer rest? Did your roots hold others steady? That is the only legacy that matters. I have never moved, and yet I've shaped the land around me. I've caught rainfall before it became flood. I've held soil before it became erosion. I've given air before anyone thought to ask for it. And when I fall, whenever that day comes, even then I will offer myself. My trunk will become home to insects, mushrooms, and new soil. My wood might warm a home. My roots, even in death, will feed other life. I will not be here forever. Nothing is. But everything I've ever been will become something else. Nothing is wasted in nature, not even death, especially not death. Because in dying, I let go of form, but not of purpose. That's what the ego can't understand, that we are not here to last forever. We are here to pass things on. Wisdom, compassion, courage, stillness. We do not carry these to keep them. We carry them to plant them, so others can grow, so the world becomes softer, so the sky breathes easier, so someone else can stand taller. I have stood here for lifetimes, but when I fall, it will not be a failure. It will be a continuation, a return, a release. My only hope is that while I stood well, that I did what I was born to do, be rooted, give freely, and let go gracefully. You are not here to be the biggest, the most praised, the most remembered. You are here to become whole, and then give that wholeness away. And that might mean no one ever writes your name on a plaque. That might mean no one builds a statue or carves your face in stone. But if you helped someone breathe easier, if you made one person feel safe, if you offered your presence when someone was breaking, then you've already succeeded. That's the legacy that lives beyond lifetimes, the legacy of presence, the legacy of love. People are so afraid of being forgotten. They scramble to leave their mark, to be remembered, to be known. But you know what's far more powerful than being remembered? Being felt. Let your life be felt. Let your love ripple, not to impress, but to heal. Let your words carry peace, not to be quoted, but to quiet the storm in someone else's mind. Let your acts of kindness be so gentle, so sincere, that they plant roots in someone else's story, even if they never know it was you. You are not the center of the forest, but you are part of it, and that is more than enough. I do not try to outshine the trees beside me.
I do not compete for sunlight or stretch just to be seen. I grow where I am planted. I give what I can. I stand tall not to prove anything, but because standing tall is what I was made for. That is freedom. To give without grasping, to grow without comparison, to serve without needing credit. When you let go of ego, you begin to live in harmony with everything around you. The rain is no longer an inconvenience. The wind is no longer your enemy. Even the falling leaves become something to celebrate, because you understand this is not about you. It never was. It's about life itself moving through you. And what a gift that is, to be a vessel, to be a channel, to be part of something far bigger, far more ancient, far more mysterious than the self could ever contain. I am not separate from the forest. I am the forest. And so are you. You are not separate from the people you love. You are not separate from the strangers you pass. You are not separate from the future you'll never see. You are part of it all. You are shaping it every day just by how you live. So ask yourself not what will they say about me when I'm gone, but what will they feel because I was here? Will someone breathe easier because of your compassion? Will someone stand taller because of your encouragement? Will someone heal faster because of your gentleness? That is your legacy. And if it is quiet, if it is invisible, if it goes unnamed forever, it is still real. The forest does not need fanfare. It only needs truth. It only needs presence. It only needs you as you are. Not performing, not perfecting, not polishing. Just present. Fully alive. Fully honest. Fully rooted in who you are. I do not fear being forgotten, because I was never here to be remembered. I was here to remember what it means to live slowly, breathe deeply, give freely, and die empty. Empty of regret, empty of ego, empty of all the striving that said I needed to be more. I was never meant to be more. I was only meant to be exactly what I am, a tree. And you? You were only meant to be you. That's all life has ever asked of you, to live in your truth, to grow in your own time, to bloom in your own way, and to give your presence as the quiet, powerful gift it always was. When my time comes, I will not hold on. I will not resist the fall. I will trust it, the same way I trusted every season before it. And when I return to the soil, I will not disappear. I will transform, because nothing truly ends. It only becomes something else. That is the final gift of legacy, to realize you never really leave. You only change form, from tree to soil, from breath to memory, from presence to pattern. And that is enough. You are enough. You always were.